Okay, so guys, welcome to tonight's call. Thanks to everybody for joining us. We have people here from the east coast of Australia, from the west coast of Australia, where most of us are based. It's quarter to 8 at night time. And we also have some Kiwis here as well, having a listen in. It's after midnight their time. So I would love to introduce everybody to Sue Burdick, the other half of the Sue and Bob show. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Sue in 2010, actually, when I went across to the US for my NMD speech. I had been to the US before to do a presentation, but I was so overwhelmed by the enormity of what I experienced that when I had the opportunity to meet Sue and Sue vetted my NMD speech, it was like meeting Juice Plus royalty, I've got to tell you. But it was an absolute pleasure to meet Sue. But what is most amazing is the story that Sue and Bob have about their journey and their evolution through the company. The company back in the day was called NSA, National Safety Associates, and Bob and Sue have been around since the very early days of the company and have certainly built this incredible life and this incredible community, which every year when we go to conference in the US, we just want to be part of the Sue and Bob wrap up because it's such an incredible after conference experience. But Sue, I don't want to go on. I don't want to ask any questions. I really just want to hand over to you for you to tell us your story around NSA, network marketing, how you've journeyed through this and what you and Bob have created for your life and your legacy.
Okay, thank you very much. And good morning from here. It's 7:45 a.m. here. And so congratulations to all those who are staying up till almost midnight to hear what I hope is some encouraging words. I dropped out of high school and I married young, and Bob had also dropped out of high school. And I married when I was 18, and by the time I was 26, I had 5 children. I had 5 boys. And I stayed home with the boys until the youngest one went to school, and Bob was doing carpentry work. So when the youngest one went to school, I entered the job market with no education and no skills and realized that I was doomed to make minimum wage the rest of my life if I didn't get a little creative. So I got a real estate license. I couldn't sell real estate. I groomed dogs. I taught aerobics. I did yard work and maid work. I washed windows. I went to work with Bob on a construction job. I tried several other different sales jobs. And I tried Herbalife, which didn't work for me. And so I was about ready to throw in the towel and just go get a job. Because at the time I started this, my children were 11 and 17. The youngest was 11, the oldest was 17. So when number 5 was born, number 6 was still 5 years. The first one was still 6 years old when I had the 5th one. So they were pretty close in age. For a while, I had 3 in diapers, and it was a nightmare. But you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I believe that 100%. Anyway, I was ready, excuse me, to throw in the towel and go get a job. And a friend of mine called me and told me that he'd started something new. He was excited about it, and he wanted to get my opinion on it. Well, nobody had wanted my opinion on anything in a real long time. So I was excited about that, flattered. And of course, when Bob came home from his construction job, he said, "Who are you kidding? That guy's going to try to sell us something." He said, "That sucker's going to try to sell us something, and we're not buying anything he's got." So that's kind of how we started. But my friend did introduce me to the company through the product. I liked the product, but I said, "No, thank you. I've tried the network marketing thing. I can't do it." And I thought that would be the end of it. But thank goodness my friend was persistent with me. He kept calling and inviting me and calling and inviting me. And I kept saying, "No, thank you." And I no-showed him a couple times. You know, we've all been through that. But one day I picked up the phone and it was him, and he had a friend of his on the phone, and they did a 3-way call with me. Of course, back then there was no 3-way calling. They were handing the phone back and forth to each other. And they appealed to my sense of logic, and they said, "You know, we're not trying to convince you to buy, sell, or join. We're just trying to convince you to take a look. You looked at the product, you liked the product. I didn't force it on you. We'd just like you to come look at the business because your negative attitude could possibly jeopardize the financial future of your children." So that got my attention. And I really thought it was a joke, just their way of getting me there. And so I said, okay, if you guys promise to stop calling me, I'll come take a look at your business. So I went just to be polite, to say, really to get them off my back. I went to say, had my arms folded, like, okay, give it to me so I can say no and go on home. But about 15 minutes into the meeting, they'd been through how great the company was. The time I started, the company was 17 years old. And, from some of the paychecks I heard about and saw, I thought all the big money had been made. This is 31 years ago. So anyway, what got my attention was they put some numbers on the board that equaled today would be 12 Club. They showed me that if I gathered my customer base and got my business qualified, and I taught that I would make $500 a month. If I taught 3 people to do that, I could make $1,000 a month. And if I helped 3 people get 3 people, I'd have a team of 12, and I could make $25,000 to $35,000 a year, staying home with my children, being my own boss, and it would only cost me $50 a year for the franchise. I mean, I just was over the moon excited about that. That's exactly what I had been looking for. $2,000 or $3,000 a month, staying home with my kids, around my own schedule. But I knew that I was not going to be able to go home and tell Bob what I had seen. I needed him to come back. So I was at a meeting in the middle of the afternoon, and they were going to do one more meeting that night, and then they were off to parts unknown, to recruit someone else. So I knew I had to drag him back to that presentation that night and let him see it. Because it wasn't that I had to have his permission, but everything I'd ever done, he'd put money into. I mean, he sent me to real estate school. He sent me to get my certificate to teach aerobics, bought the boom box and the leotards, and sent me to dog grooming school. And I never made any money back to speak of. I never actually paid him back for anything he put me into. So he was really just wanting me to go get a job, something that wouldn't cost him money. And so I drug him back, and he was bound and determined to tell the guys that we did not want any part of their opportunity. But he was like me. He got caught up in the numbers. And at the end of it, he said he did love me enough to let me try one more thing. And back then, we used to have to actually buy product and go out and resell them. And that was the case with Juice Plus too. We have to buy it by the box and go out and sell it. And we were selling a twin pack at a time, or whatever we could do. And there was no auto reorder program back then. Every 30 days, you had to talk your person into repurchasing another 30-day supply. And if you could sell a whole box, I mean, it was like, woohoo, I sold the whole box. So things have come a long way, and we're just so fortunate that the company is, has stuck it out, and now is growing like a brand new company, and they're almost 50 years old, 48 years old they'll be in August. I mean, in October. But anyway, I got started, made my list of people, got my story going, sat down at the dining room table the next morning to start my day. Of course, when Bob came down to go to work the next morning, he got a little buyer's remorse, and my product was sitting on the end of the dining room table, and he looked at it and he said, I can't believe I let you talk me into this. I've slept on it, and this was a bad idea. And now we've wasted money on that stuff. And that stuff's going to sit there and rot because you've never sold stuff in your life. And he didn't say stuff. He actually said, shit, that shit's going to sit right there and rot. And so it was like he issued me a challenge. I said, I'm going to sell that stuff. And so I sat down at my desk, which was the end of the dining room table. When you have 5 children, you don't have room for yourself to have an office. And I got scared. You know how the first couple of calls you make, the phone seems so heavy. So I picked up the phone and put it down, went over my story again. I had my story written next to the phone and some pertinent information. And I looked into the kitchen and I said, you know what? I'm going to just go load the dishwasher and clean up the sink. So did that. And then I had some dish towels in my hand. I said, why don't I just go throw in a load of laundry? So went to throw in a load of laundry, passed the bed, and I said, I got to make the bed. Can't leave your bed unmade. So I picked up the sheet and fluffed it like that. And when the sheet came down, I saw myself in the mirror in the dresser across the bed. And I looked over there and I said, girl, don't be a fool. Don't waste your time. Are you going to waste your time making this bed or you're going to get there on the phone and make a fortune. So I left the bed, got back on the phone, and I've made a fortune. So sometimes you just have to give yourself a good talking to, and and be brave. You know, we're doing the Brave Leaders program in the U.S. I don't know if you've got it there or not yet, but you really have to be brave to get on that phone and risk your ego. You know, there's security in going to a job every single day, but it's also kind of golden handcuffs. It keeps you from your potential. So be brave and live up to your potential is what I learned early in this business. So I picked up the phone, started calling people, and in my first 30 days, I spoke to 40 people. I got 22 customers, and 3 people joined my team. So I did the fast track. I thought it was going to take me a lot longer. I thought it was going to, you know, maybe squeak through in 60 days, but in 30 days, I had it done. And so I was just teaching my team, that's what you do. Every 30 days, you get, you know, 20 customers and at least 1 team member. But I was trying to get them all to get the 3 team members and you get your customer base. So anyway, so I was off and running at a fast pace. So that kind of set the pace for my whole team. And everybody got excited and the excitement mounted and I started the momentum rolling. So starting with that momentum and then getting my team doing the same thing, parlayed into making more money than Bob, and he quit his job in construction and he was teaching my team the marketing plan. I knew the product inside out, or pretty much inside out, and but he understood the intricacies of the marketing plan. He's a real mathematical genius. And so we had a flip chart in the front living room, and I would gather everybody and order pizza in, and pretty soon we were national marketing director, and uh, so but in our we made national marketing director with our top spot in 4 months, and then by Christmas in 6 months we had 2 national marketing director spots, and we were just making all kinds of money. And in our first year we were able to leave South Florida. We lived in a rented house and driving 2 old jalopy vehicles, you know, the kind you have to, before you crank it you say, Lord, let it crank today, that kind of thing. And so we were able to come back to Georgia and buy back a little house that we had built with our own 2 hands on a little 60-acre farm. And I didn't think life could get any better than coming home to Georgia, to the farm. And I'm here to tell you that the first year was the worst year. Every year's been better since then. And we now have our business built in over 24 countries. Dubai was the newest country. And I was born in Itawamba County, Mississippi. And if you know anything about the United States, Mississippi is the poorest state in the nation. And I was born at home in a house with no plumbing and no electricity in 1950. And I had never really been out of the South. So now I've been over 130 times to Europe. I've been around the world 9 times. I have been to Australia, Japan, you know, the Pacific Rim, Malaysia, and over 50 times. And life is amazing. Our 5 kids are grown. We have 15 grandchildren, and we just had our 9th great grandchild. And we're young and healthy enough to play volleyball with them, to swim with them, to ski with them, you know, to keep up with them. So things happen for a reason, you know, and you just stay the course. And I couldn't imagine life any better than it is right now, except if some of my kids would do the business. That would make it great. They'll dabble in it, but and Bob and I have been able to earn over $27 million in this business. And I still laugh when I say it because it's so hard to believe. We're not the top earners. We're right up there in the top somewhere. But, you know, life is so good. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. And I don't share it to brag or to boast, but to inspire people that if a couple of high school dropouts with a good, strong work ethic can do this business, so can you. Anybody can do this business. And so many things have changed over the years. That's what's interesting to me is people expect everything to stay the same. They want to get better, but they want it to stay the same. It's not going to stay the same. So you just have to keep learning and keep learning. And we've gone from water filters to air filters to the Juice Plus, and never dreamed that the air filters would and the water filters would go by the wayside and this would take it over, but it certainly has. And Jay Martin has had the ability. Of course, he says he has great friends that introduce him to things. They were in smoke detectors. So when, smoke detectors went from a great big thing that you put in your attic, cost hundreds of dollars, to a little thing this big that's you can buy at Walmart for $10. Then it was time to move on, and somebody helped him find the water filters, and then someone added the air filters, and then came with the Juice Plus. And we just kind of took it because Jay told us to, didn't really research it or know what it was. And then he started doing the research on it. And we started feeling better and sleeping better and hair growing and nails growing. And, the kids, we have a family of athletes and healthy kids. And, I don't want to brag about them, but they're all in good moods. They make good grades. They're happy with each other. There's very little fighting. Life's too good. There's no time to fight. So I just want to thank you again for letting me share my story and let you all know that just learn the basics and do them over and over and over and keep learning and keep doing.
Ah,
Okay?
Sue, that's amazing. Can I just pose a couple of questions, because I think people are absolutely gobsmacked at your story. I'm gobsmacked every time I hear about it. Do you know what is so amazing with you just talking about, I've described a 12 club business and this is how we haven't really changed what we've been talking about and how we've been talking about the business for 30 years. What you were talking about 30 years ago was exactly what we talk to people about today. So I guess the point I want to make is that let's not try and fix what's not broken. Let's not try and reinvent the way that we talk about our business or teach our business. I mean, quite clearly, you've taught people how to teach the business in doing your 20 customers a month and one brand new franchisee. Do you think that's kind of that simplicity is what's really driven your success?
Absolutely. And when you learn, excuse me, to get your story down, sorry. It's getting your story down so that it's short and so that it is impelling, so that people, you grab their attention. It's like a TV commercial. You've got 15 seconds to get their attention, or they're bored and they're on their phone or something. So it's getting your story down like it helped you with your NMD story. It's making it compelling and developing a curiosity in them that they're going to want to hear more. So it's getting your product story down, getting your business story down, and then sharing it often. And what we concentrate on is 5 and 1, 5 customers and 1 team member per month once you get your business qualified. If you do 5 customers and 1 team member a month for 3 to 5 years, I compare it to a university degree. Most degrees take 4 years, some do it in 3, some take 5. But 5 customers a month for 12 months is 60 customers. 1 distributor a month for 12 months is 12 distributors, 12 team members. And from your 60 customers, statistically, 1 in 10 customers is going to want to take a look at the business. So you have 6 potential team members in your customer base. So that makes in 1 year 18 team members and 60 customers. They won't all stay, but they won't all leave. Let's say 1 in 3 stays. You got 20 customers, you got 6 team members in 1 year. Do it the 2nd year, do it the 3rd year, do it the 4th year, 5th year. If you do that, your structure will lead you to QNMD, NMD, and the money will be there. The money will come from the volume that you've created from playing the numbers game. And if you talk to 2 people a day, 5 days a week, that's 10 people a week or 40 people a month. If you only get 1 in 10, that's 4 customers. And then do a little event at your house, attend a local event, create a local event if there isn't one going on. And we're playing a numbers game. I was taught Sinaloa, SINALOA, safety in numbers and a law of averages. You keep talking to people, you do your 5 and 1, and the rest will happen. Okay?
Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. I love it, because what you're talking about is consistency and compounding. And if you just are consistent in your daily method of operation, then the compounding just happens. That's absolutely brilliant. So just a couple of questions. What do you think? I mean, you're a mum of 5 and you had 5 under 6. And it sounds to me like they were kind of teenage boys when you really launched yourself into this. So I can't even imagine that. I have girls. What do you think it takes as a woman to build this, particularly around your family?
I can remember when I started June the 8th, 1987. So this June, I'm in the business 31 years. But I sat the boys down and I said, okay, your mom is going to be working. I'm not going to be at every Cub Scout event. I'm not going to be at every ball game. I'm going to be working. And this is going to be a family project, and we're going to do it as a team. I need your help. And I'd always made them do chores. You know, they made their own beds and things, but they were going to have to step it up a notch. And I said, you're going to have to take over the laundry. You're going to have to do some of the cooking, and I'm going to be on the phone. And we could only afford one phone line, you know, and back then you had to pay for long distance if you called long distance. So I made them, I wrote out what they were going to say when they picked up the phone. Hello, this is Adam. This is the Burdick residence. This is Adam, or this is whoever. How can I help you? And they're like, well, what if it's one of our friends? I said, then he'll know you're helping your mom with her business. You say it, or you don't answer the phone. And then I said, you know what? If you guys help me do this right, we're going to have a better Christmas than you've ever had in your life. So start making your Christmas list now. And they're like, well, really? And they're writing down, you know, back then it was those air pants, the parachute pants and the leather jackets and, you know, the $100 tennis shoes and that kind of stuff. Oh, they started making their list and they jumped right in and helped. And I think the team effort is what helped. And they would, you know, when we would have our meeting at the house, the flip chart, they actually were learning the business behind my back as they were serving, you know, cantaloupe and pizza. So I made it a family affair and got them involved in whatever they could do to help.
Yeah, I think that buy-in is definitely really important. And like you said, they had a responsibility that the whole family was working towards. Hillary is on the call. She's one of our NMDs. She's asked a question. Has your business constantly grown, or have you had times when it went quiet or a little bit stagnant? And what did you do to reinvigorate that?
Well, I was taught that consistency breaks all barriers. Momentum goes in three stages. You develop momentum, you start the momentum, and you maintain the momentum, and then you advance the momentum. And Jay Martin says it's kind of like a military strategy. You seize and secure. So you seize a couple of new people, and then you secure them with teaching them to get their own customer base and getting qualified to make the big money, which is down in your team, you know, the 5% that you earn on your team. Anyways, you start the momentum doing the basics over and over and over on the phone, talking to people, you know, and events and taking people to events and attending events is the biggest money maker. So of course your team, your business is going to go flat for a while because you are maintaining the business. Not that you're getting in a management mode, but you are maintaining the momentum that you started, and then you kick back in with the basics really hard, and it will advance the momentum again. So if your business goes quiet, pick up the pace with the basics, and that will break that flat balance. I mean that you know the maintenance. You don't want to get in a management mode, but there is a time when you have to kind of manage it, and you pick up the pace.
Yeah.
And it's just the basics over and over and over. Establish the momentum, maintain momentum, and advance the momentum over and over and over.
Yeah, and just to like take that military analogy a little bit further, it's about getting down in the trenches. So just because you're an NMD or just because you're a leader doesn't mean that you can't get on the phones and recruiting and putting on new frontline and so on.
Your team is going to do what you do. So if you do nothing, they'll do it also.
Yeah, right. Nice piece of advice. Chloe has asked the question, how did you build your international business? And, you know, would you start by securing your backyard first?
We say sell across the street before you go across the nation and the world. Yes. So you work locally, but you think globally. And you would never go globally to chase the business. when the company in 1988, the company had its first international venture, and I guess it was into Canada, and then that same year into England. So Canada was international to me, even though it's like the 52nd, 53rd state. It's like another state, really, but it was international. And I remember going into Canada. It was that we had a friend who had a friend who had a cousin in Canada, and so of course we got on the phone with them, and it cost a fortune back then to call Canada, and just established a relationship and got them to put some team together. And we traveled with our team member who had the contact there and went there and started a business in Canada. And it was really exciting. Then later on that same year, they opened the UK. And of course, we had a team member who had a friend who was from the UK. And it was interesting. I don't know how long we have. I don't want to talk too long. But we had a friend who was an Indian guy, and he had a friend who was from the UK that he'd gone to school with when he was young. And his friend just happened to be in the States. He was going to school in Virginia, taking a class or something. And my Indian friend called me one day and said he had been drinking. He did that a little bit. And so he said, my friend is in Dallas at the airport, and he's going to board a plane pretty soon. And I'd like you to call him and tell him a little bit about this business and that we want to come to England. He said, will you go to England with me? I said, I will go to England with you, yes. And so he said, he actually could talk to Bob, and he said, you have to call the airport, here's the number, and have him paged. And Bob was, at that time, Bob was still shy. He hid behind a big beard and long hair. And he was shy to talk. But once he learned, I asked him out on our first date. He was so shy. But once he learned that talking made him money, he hasn't shut up since. But so Bob handed the phone to me, and he said, Dilip's on here, and he wants you to call the Dallas airport and page somebody, and I'm not doing it here. So I said, okay, Dilip, I'll do it. So I paged this guy, called the airport, paged the guy. I didn't know that he was actually on the plane, and they told him that he had an emergency and got him off the plane. I'd never met the guy. So when he got on the phone, I said, hello, my name's Sue Burdick, and you don't know me, but we have a friend in common. His name's Dilip. And he said, Dilip, and you're who? And it was crazy, but I did a brave act, and look what it built. And then from there, it went all over Europe. I mean, all over, Germany was the next country, and it just kind of went that way. So I let the business pull me. I didn't, go there on a whim. And it's the same with Dubai. We got team members who had contacts. We actually found a chiropractor and his wife and some other contacts. So I would never go to a country without contacts.
Yeah, I certainly know myself is that you need to be prepared to spend time in a country with the, off you go, Sue? Yeah, right. Yeah, I agree. So we might just wrap it up with one more question, unless anybody else has any questions. You've obviously sponsored a lot of leaders, you and Bob together. I certainly, as I said, I've sat in your wrap-ups before, and I've had the opportunity to look around the room at all of the leadership that have come into your team. So what do you think are the characteristics that make someone or help to make somebody successful in this business?
I think that we're looking for somebody with some amount of dissatisfaction in their life, and then to find out, are they dissatisfied enough to make a change? And maybe we have the change they're looking for. So learning to ask questions, it's like a nurse. There's a man named Michael Oliver, I think is his name. He wrote a book, How to Do Network Marketing Without Losing Your Friends and Your Family. That's not exactly the name of it, but he talks about asking questions to get to someone's, lack of satisfaction in some area, small amount of dissatisfactions in some area of their lives. So I met a nurse, and of course you say, what do you do? And what do you do? And I said, what do you do? And she said, I'm a nurse. And so I said, oh, you must love doing that. We all think of Florence Nightingale and what a wonderful career being a nurse would be. And you must love that. And she said, no. And she started telling me all the negatives about being a nurse, the bedpans, the doctors talking down to you, the midnight hours, all the negatives. And so then she said, what do you do? And I said, I'm one of the lucky ones. I love what I do. I get to be my own boss. I own a franchise that I work from home. And I don't know if you've ever thought about, doing, a direct sales or working from home or owning your own boss. But I'm always looking for team members. I love, your energy. I love your spirit. I love, your tenacity with getting your job done. And I'd love to run this by you. I don't know if it'd be a fit for you or not. If it is, great. If not, maybe you know someone that you could refer to me. And I always end my story that way. Maybe if it's a fit for you, great. If not, maybe you know someone that you can refer to me to. Uh-oh. The power went off. It just blinked. What's that noise? Oh, we have a bad storm coming, Bob.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, lightning and anyways.
Wow, it sounds like it.
Oh, okay. Shut the door. I have a jacuzzi tub, and when the power goes off, it cleans itself and goes whoosh. So anyways, you're looking for some element of dissatisfaction in someone's life. Ask them enough questions and listen, and they'll tell you what they're unhappy with, and you can say, I don't know if you've ever thought of doing this, but I love what I do. Not many people love what they do. So I always say, I'm one of the lucky ones. I love what I do. I get to be my own boss and take it from there.
Yeah, I love that. Finding that point of pain and then offering the solution. That's fabulous. Awesome advice. And I think, when we look at a lot of our leadership in this business, I certainly think it is people driving towards that why are they doing this? And the more powerful their why, the more likely they are to have success. So we have loved listening to your story. You've shared some absolute pearls of wisdom, but more than that, you've solidified a lot of the things that we talk about, and that there is no secret sauce in this business. It's just being consistent every day. It's doing this with passion. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's about utilizing that tried and proven system that has been in place for 48 years this year. So we want to thank you from the depths of our heart for sharing what you've shared with us. If anybody else has any last questions, you better be typing really, really quickly because Sue and Bob have got to go and secure their house before it flies away. Thank you so much. I know that there are people who are coming to the States for spring conference, and there's already people now planning for the autumn conference as well. We can't wait to see you again. I'm going to open up the lines now to everybody, and just unmute yourself, guys. And if you could just share your gratitude, and thanks, Sue and Bob in the background for all their love. I know.
Thank you for having me on the call. And,
it's been awesome.
See you in Phoenix. Those of you coming, thank you, Tamara.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody.